everyone, myself Diksha from Biotechnica. Here I am here to help you in giving you top job offers, to help you in finding top job opportunities that are available for you after doing your PhD in bioinformatics. So let's get tuned and start the video. So the first thing is, what is bioinformatics? So once we deal with bioinformatics, we study about the biological interpretation of data through various tools and techniques that are related to our understanding and capability to understand the computer sciences as well as the statistical process. So if you have done your PhD in bioinformatics, you very well know how to deduce and derivate your data, how to deduce the logical explanations that are related to biology using the tools and techniques that are available through computer science and data interpretation. So the first and foremost job that you can grab through your PhD in bioinformatics, guess what you can do? So let's talk about the job perspective that are available. So once we talk about the job perspective that are there after doing your PhD in bioinformatics, so basically you have to store, analyze, interpret and deduce the data. You have to go through the structural findings, you have to go through the functional annotations, and you have to find logical explanations to them. So if you are doing your PhD or if you have done your PhD in bioinformatics, you should stick to the terms and conditions of your subject, and you should be priormost, you should know exactly about the needs of your subject. Then only you will be able to grab any job opportunity. So the first job that you can do after doing your PhD in bioinformatics is, job number one is software engineer or of bioinformatics or a bioinformatician. So basically, if you are being hired as software engineer after your PhD, so you can do data interpretation. Data interpretation is very much important after your PhD in bioinformatics because you have been taught to do data interpretation and analyze the results based on the 5-year experience of your PhD program. The second thing is you can do programming. So basically, you can use the tools and techniques of programming, and you can derive logical explanation based on the programming techniques that you have learned to find the biological solutions. The third thing is you can develop new tools. Developing new tools is really important because you need to know about the new findings, new research areas, the new domains that are being developed. So developing new tools to assist those research is important, especially if you are PhD in bioinformatics, because this is what you are supposed to do. This is what we expect from you. Job number two. So second job is computational biologist. So bioinformatics and computational biology go hand in hand, and if you have completed your PhD in bioinformatics, you should know about computational biology techniques. So the second job is you can do computational management. The next thing is you can manage statistical process, and then you can do biological accessibility. So computational management is important, especially if you have done your bioinformatics PhD, because you need to manage the data that has been provided to you, and you need to derive the conclusion based on the statistical process that you have learned. So a computational biologist is responsible for maintaining the computational management of the data and deriving the statistical process based on the biological accessibility that they have been provided. So basically, biological accessibility is important, and you have to interconnect your knowledge of computer programming, you have to connect your knowledge of computational biology for biological accessibility and deducing your result. Now, third comes pharmacogenomics sector. So this sector is important for a bioinformatician because every day we are dealing with many diseases. Our world is getting struck by many health conditions, so we need to develop drugs against them. So basically, pharmacogenomics sector deals with drug development. So if you are a bioinformatician, you have to be involved in basically analyzing the standards and procedure that are related to drug development techniques. So you can collaborate with any research sector. So basically any research sector that if they have found a new drug, let's say a phytochemical, and they are in the field of getting a vital idea about the drug that they have found. So basically you have been given the accessibility to for lead identification, or to know about the drug, to basically solve those clues about the drug, because it is very novel. So you need to find the precision of the drug. So basically you are aiding the research sector, you are aiding the pharma companies, you are cross networking with them so that you can derive a logical conclusion about the drug that has been synthesized. So synthesis of a drug, then their optimization, their deriving their values, they're deriving their let's say the properties through bioinformatic tools is very much necessary, especially if you are PhD in bioinformatics. So the next is number 4, core facilities. Core facilities means everywhere. If you go to a pharma sector, if you go to a government company, if you go to a, let's say, a public sector undertaking or a research sector, there are core facilities set up which is responsible for maintenance, and they are responsible for accepting for the collaboration of the data, of the research data that comes all across of the labs, from that lab or especially from outside of the lab. So core facilities are important in assisting and interpreting of those data that are being provided to them. So if you are a PhD in bioinformatics, you can go to those core facilities, you can get a job in those core facilities. Either you can be a technical officer, so startingly you will be provided as a technical officer. Then by gaining experience, by gaining more and more experience in those core facilities, you can become the senior manager of those core facilities. So the senior manager is responsible for handling all the core facilities that comes under them, and they are basically operating the core facility. They are basically modifying the rules and regulations of the course facility that are important for the research sector to work. So basically they are responsible for handling and management, and they are responsible for giving appropriate data, interpretation of appropriate data from the crude data that they are providing. So basically the core facilities are responsible for handling and management. So this is the job number 4. So the 5th one is postdoctoral researcher. So once you are done with your PhD, you can become a postdoctoral researcher, which is very common for the students who want to continue their research. So being a postdoctoral researcher isn't easy, because you have to deal with a lot of research violations, you have to deal with research facilities, you have to deal with research sector. So if you want to continue your research career, and if you are really interested in pursuing your research in bioinformatics further after your PhD, you can become a postdoctoral researcher. Becoming a postdoctoral researcher is important because you can work on expanding computational ideas. So computational ideas are really needed in today's world, because people want to know, researchers want to know the tools and techniques. They want to know the expanding horizon of bioinformatics, so that their research work can get easy and get aided by the new developing tools and techniques. So basically, if you are a postdoctoral researcher, your contribution towards the expanding the computational ideas are really important, and this is what is expected from you. So the second point is you can work in the top institutions in USA or Europe, because if you are a postdoctoral researcher, you are going to Europe, you are going to USA for pursuing your postdoctoral experience. So basically you are gaining experience, you are gaining a knowledge which you can surely apply for your contribution in the bioinformatics society as well as the research sector. Third point is contributing to ongoing computational research. If there is any computational research ongoing, such as in your, suppose that from where you have completed your PhD, so if in that institution is really contributing good towards any bioinformatics sector, towards any bioinformatics research, or there is any other institution that is really doing good in finding the pioneer basis, especially in the bioinformatics research, your knowledge, your research experience can assist those institutions and can help them to bud out and to grow and to evolve. So your knowledge is basically important, especially if you are getting experience, so you can apply those experience and you can let them help to be helped by your knowledge, which is very important. So you can become a postdoctoral researcher. Point number 6 is you can become a clinical associate. being a clinical associate means you are working hand in hand with the hospitals, the management, the clinical accessibility team of the research area, where they are day to day in getting involved in finding the logical solutions, in finding the interpretations of the diseases involved, assessing the drugs, assessing the pharmacokinetics and pharmacogenomics of the drugs. So basically, if you want to be a clinical associate, you can surely be a clinical associate after doing your PhD in bioinformatics. So the first thing is your work would be to assess the clinical research data, so the data that you have been provided, the clinical data from the patient sample that you have been provided. So the first and foremost your work is to assess those clinical data. So let's say if there is a leukemia patient, and if you have been provided with the data, with the genome, so you have to basically analyze this genome. You have to use tools and tricks to analyze the genome of the patient. So you have been given this work, so you can assess the clinical research data that has been provided, or the secondary data that has been provided to you. The second thing is you have to obtain research outputs. Obtaining research outputs means you have to find a conclusion, you have to find a research conclusion of the data that has been provided. So basically your work is to team up, collaborate, and find explanation to the reason, to the crude research idea, the crude research sample that has been given to you. The third thing is you can work in a research institution or a pharma industry. Working in a research institution or a pharma industry will help you in building experience and gaining knowledge about your subject, especially after if you are a clinical associate. So your experience will aid your contribution, your experience will aid in the booming sector, especially in the healthcare and in the research sector. Number 7. So number 7 is bioinformatics research scientist. So if your basics about bioinformatics, if your research ideas and innovations about bioinformatics are really well, you can surely develop your career becoming a scientist in the field of bioinformatics. And especially if you are interested in the long-term research experience, you're interested in the long-term research development and contribution in the field of bioinformatics, you can surely become a scientist. Becoming a scientist isn't easy because you have to deal with a lot of contributions, you have to deal with a lot of negative outputs, you have to deal with a lot of things that you might not think after doing your PhD in bioinformatics. So if you're really determined of doing your postdoc and then becoming a scientist, then you can easily, after your PhD, if you can get any job becoming a scientist and you're really passionate about it, you can surely go for it. So your work is computational tools to study living systems. So you are applying the computational tools to study the living system. You are helping your colleagues, you are helping other research sector to grow. So basically your computational ideas, your innovations is aiding your colleagues and the fellow sectors to grow. So it's very important for you to be responsible in this regard and have a precise knowledge about your subject. The second thing is you deriving logical conclusion and research output. Same thing, you have to be really clear about the research output you are getting. The research output that you are getting is important for the booming sector, for the future of bioinformatics, for the future of the research that is being happening from the past, let's say 6 years. So your output is important for one paper that might get published and that might get a Nobel Prize in future. So your one contribution will effectively lead to a proper and a better future, especially if something innovative is happening. So you have to be very precise, you have to be clear, you have to be very concerned towards the research output. The third point is improving quality of research. So if you are a scientist, you have to improve the quality of research, because the only thing is important is to improve, to sustain, to appreciate, and to evolve from the existing research that is happening. So you have to grow from the research rather than just being still at that point. So your ideas are important for the growth of the bioinformatics sector. So you should be responsible, you should be keen if especially you are pursuing your career as a scientist after doing your PhD in bioinformatics. The next thing is you can become an individual contributor. If you want to be a freelancer, you are not interested in being tied up to a company or a pharmaceutical company or a research institution, you can be an individual contributor where you can collaborate. You can collaborate so that you can network, you can outreach your innovation to the research areas, to the people who are doing research, to the academic sector, to the pharma companies. You can maintain your networking, you can sell your ideas, your innovations, and you can outreach your innovations to them. So basically, this is about individual contributor, especially if you want to work as a freelancer. The next thing is site management. Site management refers to implementation of your ideas about bioinformatics in helping building new websites, new tools and techniques that are good for the research, budding research sector, for good for the research, the people who are doing research, for the research industries. So basically you are developing your strategy, you are building innovative platforms so that they can come, they can work there, they can put their basic crude data there and they can get a logical output. So it's important for you to, if you are suppose becoming individual contributor, it's important for you to have a passion and to be passionate towards the bioinformatics sector. Without passion, you can't be an individual contributor because you are working for the effectivity of the research and the pharma sector on the basis of your scholarly idea about the bioinformatics sector. So basically, if you want to be an individual contributor, you should be passionate about research, you should be passionate about your knowledge and contribution too. So number 9 comes if you are a bioinformatician and you want to have a basics in, let's say if you have a basics in genome analysis, you have keen interest in molecular biology, then you can go for for helping and becoming a next generation sequence analyst. So those data that you are getting from next generation analysis from the students, from the scholars, from the scientists who are working on next generation data. So there are a lot of data that need to be sequenced, that need to be annotated, especially in the case of DNA. So especially if you have the knowledge of genomics, you have the knowledge of molecular biology, you have the knowledge of genetics, you have the knowledge of sequencing, let's say, you can go and contribute to become a next generation sequencing analyst. So you can basically work in the tie-up with the pharma companies who are working in the field of genetics, or you can tie up with the pharmaceutical industry, let's say, or a research academy. So you can tie up with those research sector or a freelance laboratory. You can research with the small tie-ups. So you can collaborate with them and you can help them in getting this sequencing done, annotation done by the tools and techniques that you have learned in your PhD duration. So next generation sequencing, you can analyze the genome from the data that has been provided to you. You can assist the researchers that are working in the field of genomics as well as genetics, and you can aid in publishing papers. So if you are helping them in getting the results, so basically you are becoming a co-author of the paper too. So you are helping them in getting a paper published, a new data published. So it is this career is also very good for, very shining for those people who have done their PhD in bioinformatics, because basically they are contributing. So they are one hand situation where they are helping the researchers and the pharmaceutical collaborators to get a data. So the secrecy of data is being maintained and they are getting benefit out of that, because if the paper gets published and if there is your contribution in getting the result, the final output, then your name will be mentioned there and you will get a publication on your name. So it's basically, if you want a publication, especially in your name, if you want to be a co-author, if you want to assist the publication team that are firstly doing research and getting their publication done, so you can become a next generation sequence analyst. So basically you are helping them to find a logical conclusion about the research data, so you can get that published too, might publish too basically. Number 10 is the the first thing you might think about after doing a PhD is you can become an educator. So becoming an educator means you have a clear explanation and idea about the work that you have been doing in the past 5 years. So being an educator is important because you are teaching, you are taking the responsibility and the credibility to teach the exact same thing that you have learned. So it's a very responsible thing. If you want to be an educator, you can surely go ahead to become an educator, and that requires, being an educator requires to be sound in your academic career, because you are teaching the students, the BSc student, the MSc student, or even the PhD student, you are teaching them. So basically you want them to grow. So your academic career should be motivation to them so that they can see you and they can help you in growth. So you are building their academic career, you are teaching the computational biology and bioinformatics to the student, to the budding students who want to pursue. So you are developing an interest in them so that they can pursue their interest in bioinformatics. The third thing is that you can schedule laboratory assistant, where you can teach them the laboratory practices, the computer lab, dry lab experiments, how to handle the tools of bioinformatics. So basically you are encouraging them to pursue their career in bioinformatics. So these were the top 10 jobs that you can pursue after doing your PhD in bioinformatics. And if there is anything else that you want to mention, please mention in the comment box below. I hope that you have liked this video. Thank you so much for watching this video.